All right.
Hi, everybody. So this is really exciting. I am here doing this podcast with one of my friends, Rob. He has a blog that's very exciting, and he's just about to get his 3,000th movie review, which is really amazing. And so, Rob, here, do you want to introduce yourself and your blog and kind of what you've been doing?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Rachel, for inviting me to come onto your show. I have a site called MovieRob. It's on WordPress, movierob.wordpress.com, where all I do is review movies. I've been doing this for almost 4 years. Actually, in a little less than a month, I'll hit 4 years. And right now, I'm at about 2,950 reviews, give or take. And hoping that by the time that I reach my anniversary in about a month, that I'm going to hit my 3,000th review.
Wow.
And I watch any type of movies, old, new, most genres. The only ones that I'm not really the biggest fan of are foreign language movies and horror, so I try and steer away from those mainly, but every so often they pop up here or there. But in general, not.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have something kind of planned for your 3,000th? A big film? You don't have to tell us, but
no, I actually don't. What I'm doing is that as you know, because you're part of it, I do this thing at every milestone called Movies from the Hat, where what I do is I get fellow bloggers to recommend a movie to me that I've never reviewed, and I put all the titles into a hat. And when I start this project, I pull out a film every single time I want to watch one, and I have to watch the one that was recommended to me. So I have now about 48 suggestions from people. And so I'm hoping today or tomorrow to already start watching them. And basically, my 3,000th review will be one of those. That's part of the fun of it, that I don't know what my review will be about, what my 3,000th review will be.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Like, what is it that inspires you particularly about movies and just excites you about them?
Everything. I mean, I've always loved movies. I've always loved watching them, being transported to a different place and time, seeing different people's opinions on things, learning about sometimes history, learning about different cultures. Sometimes, obviously, the foreign language thing makes that a little more difficult, but just the idea of broadening my knowledge of the world via what people have given us through film.
Yeah, the Roger Ebert, he has a kind of a famous quote where he says that movies are a machine for creating empathy. And I think that's really true, because
I can agree with that.
Yeah, because I do love to read, and when you read, you can kind of, it's sort of a different experience. It's kind of like you're like plopped down in a world, and you can kind of get the nitty gritty and hack your way through it and everything like that. Whereas like a movie is more of sort of a flyover kind of experience. It's more of a, because it's 2 hours. It's just a different experience, but there's something about that you can connect with another person that you would never connect with, you would never spend time with. The recent, if you think about the recent Best Picture nominees, that
I was thinking Lion when you were saying that.
Yeah, someone like Lion, which I loved Lion.
And I enjoyed that very much also.
Yeah. And or even Moonlight, like I'm not going to, where I live, I'm not going to meet a African-American gay person growing up in the city. Like, I don't know anybody like that. And so, you get to spend time with this person that you wouldn't normally spend time with, and get to sort of walk in their shoes. Or also, just the fantasy. It doesn't always have to be realism. It can also be, escapism in a way too, like getting to go to Middle Earth, or getting to go to
going to Middle Earth isn't escapism.
getting to go to a galaxy far, far away, or whatever it might be, and getting to just It's just great.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, great. So I've really been enjoying recently, in I think anticipation for the Oscars. You did a great series where you went over every single year of the Oscars, and
Right. I did two series that actually I started them both on December 1st.
Mhm.
And every day I had one post about each of the two series. One of them was, as you mentioned, it was every year of the Oscar Best Picture nominees. What I did was it was called "Did They Get It Right?" And I basically give my thoughts on every one of the nominees from that year, and my ranking of the films from that year, which sometimes I agree with what the Academy voted on, sometimes not. And what I did was I started in 2015 and worked my way backwards all the way to 1928. And then on the final day, the day after the Oscars from this year, so I gave my thoughts on the Oscars from 2016 also. So therefore, I had all 89 years listed. And
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to agree with everything I say, but that's why we all do this.
You're not
to give
doing
our opinion of it.
Yeah, you're not doing your job if everybody agrees with you all the time.
That's very true. I agree with that. And the second series that I did was I called it 89 Days of Oscar Nominees. I mean, obviously, I'm quite a prolific. I've quite a vast number of movies that I've seen in my lifetime, and obviously in the last 4 years, where I'm coming up to 3,000 reviews. But there are a lot of Oscar nominees that I just never got around to seeing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to now pick 89 nominees that I've never seen and just watch them and review them. And what I did was every day from December 1st till the day of the Oscars, I reviewed one of those movies. And so according to my current tally, I've now watched 515 of the 595 nominees in all the 89 years of the Oscars. And I still have about 80 that I haven't seen. Most of them are from the 1930s, because one of the things that I was able to do here is from, I think, 1946 till now, I've now seen every one of the nominees.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, I counted, I'd seen 62 of just the winners, just the Best Picture winners. So I still have Best Picture winners to see. So that's very impressive. Very impressive. And I think that what do you think was some of the most competitive years where you were just like, wow, they could have given it to every single one of these movies?
1994, when you had Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption, Quiz Show, Pulp Fiction, and 1 second, my memory's can't remember right now what that other one was. I know I'm going to kick myself because it is something that's probably very simple. 1994.
Because that was the year Schindler's List one, right?
No. That was the year after Schindler's List. Schindler's List was 1993.
Oh, okay. That's right. It won in 94. So Forrest Gump.
Right. I go according to the year that the movie came out.
Right.
Like the Oscars this year was 2016, not 2017.
So it was so Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Four Weddings and a Funeral. Thank you. There you go. Right. Now all 5 of those are just great, amazing movies. And I think the only one that really, no, actually, all of them. All of them were great. 1999 was also a great year when you had the Cider House Rules, Sixth Sense, American Beauty, The Green Mile, and I can't remember the final one also. Wow, every single one of these ones, I keep getting stuck on the fifth one. The Insider.
Oh, okay.
The Insider, which was also a great movie.
Yeah. Let's see.
Those
Sixth
are
Sense.
2 of them.
Did you say Sixth Sense?
Yes, the Sixth Sense.
Okay, yeah.
Bruce Willis,
The one I always think of is 1939. Isn't that the year that Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind and Stagecoach and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Goodbye Mr. Chips, Of Mice and Men, Wuthering Heights. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, 1939 was a great year also. I actually, Goodbye Mr. Chips is one of the movies I just saw for the first time, and I loved it. It was great.
It is really good.
I've actually still have a few from that year that I haven't seen yet.
A few I haven't seen either, like Ninochka. Dark Victory. I haven't seen either. Those are the two I haven't.
I mean, obviously, when you have a year that has 10 nominees, it's harder to find. It's harder to state that was a year that every one of the movies would have been deserving. Another year that I actually would also say was great was 1957, which had 12 Angry Men, Bridge on the River Kwai, Peyton Place, which I also saw now for the first time, and I loved it. Sayonara, and Witness for the Prosecution. Sayonara is the weakest of the five, but they're all amazing films.
12 Angry Men and Bridge of the River Kwai are so good.
Yes.
So good. Agree with you there. Yeah, I was really interested to read because I had just done my own series in 2015 and I continued it. I did an update in 2016, 2017 of the best animated feature film nominees, kind of the same. Did the right film win?
Well, that you only had to go back to 2001.
Yeah. It's not as ambitious as you, but but it's cool. One of the cool things about the animated branch is that I think more than maybe other branches, they do a really good job of highlighting independent and smaller films. And I think that, I don't know, I appreciate that. And they also do a really good job of recognizing non-CG films. I mean, the year that Inside Out won, it was the only CG film nominated, which is pretty crazy.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so they do a pretty good job. This year, you had Kubo, that was stop motion. You had My Life as a Zucchini, stop motion. And
that one I haven't seen yet.
The Red Turtle was traditional. So that's pretty. And so then just the two Disney entries were the CG. So I kind of appreciate that they're kind of keeping those other mediums alive a little bit in a way. And so yeah. And so, all right. Well, so what would you say is some of the ones that surprised you the most in these various projects that you've done, and some of the ones that you were kind of underwhelmed by?
Okay. Well, one of the ones that I loved was Ship of Fools.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
1965.
Cool.
And it's an amazing idea. It basically, I guess you could sort of say it's sort of like the Love Boat type of thing, where you have all these different people that show up on a cruise ship in the 1930s. But what they did was they have different characters that all represent different aspects of society, and showing them interact on this ship. And obviously the name of the film is Ship of Fools because they're all idiots, from the perspective that they only see themselves as opposed to seeing whatever, the other parts of society and stuff like that. And this is basically a German ship traveling from I think Cuba or somewhere in somewhere in the Caribbean on its way to Europe. Again, I don't remember where. Maybe to Spain. I think the ship is supposed to go or something like that. And it's 1930s, and they're mostly Germans. So you have the stunt Nazi ones, and you have the Jew who thinks everything's great, in Germany, and you have a woman, a man who's married to a Jew, and so you see there's also a midget there. right? Where he's actually, I can't remember the name of the actor offhand right now, but he's the only actor, I guess you could say, of his stature to ever be nominated for an Oscar.
Interesting. Okay.
And I mean, the cast was just amazing.
That sounds really good.
First of all, his name is, no, that's not him. Can't even think of where he is right now. But I mean, you have Vivian Leigh, you have Simone Signoret, I think you pronounce her name.
Yeah, it says Lee Marvin and Jose Ferrer. I like that.
Oscar Werner, George Siegel, who's also great there. Michael Dunn. That's the actor.
Okay.
That's the midget.
Cool.
And he's great. And Heinz Ruhlman. I mean, the and of course Werner Klempner, who was I think he was Colonel Klink. If I remember correctly,
okay.
From Hogan's Heroes.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It was such a great movie. And,
yeah.
I mean, I know that you don't think it should have won because it was up against Sound of Music. But
yeah.
But no, I love Sound of Music also. But it's just a question of in retrospect, looking back at the themes and messages of the films.
Okay.
So Ship of Fools is one of them that I loved.
I'll tell you one that I think you never hear people talk about that was the Best Picture nominee. It's called Talk of the Town. And this was... I've
actually never seen that one.
Oh, you haven't? So 1942. And I think this movie is so well written. It's really funny. It has really good performances. And it's basically... It's about this, it's a comedy, but I think it says a little bit more, and it's actually very relevant. It stars Cary Grant, Jean Arthur, and Ronald Colman. And Ronald Colman plays this man who is this law professor, and he believes in sort of the sanctity of law, and that law is perfect and the law must be followed with exactness and kind of thing. And so he ends up taking this summer house that's owned by Jean Arthur. And he goes to move in, and it turns out there's this man named Leopold Dilge who has been framed for this arson crime because the town is like super corrupt. And so Leopold Dilge escapes from prison because he knows he's just like, there's no way. There's no chance of a fair trial, nothing. And so he ends up hiding he ends up showing up the day she's getting the house ready. And so he's hiding in the attic of this law professor staying at the house. And Leopold Dilge is played by Cary Grant. And so, he ends up claiming that he's the gardener. Well, so they start having these conversations because he obviously believes that justice and that the law needs to account for kind of human error, and that it needs to be a little more flexible.
Oh wow! Don't give away too much because I'm going to see it.
Fair enough. But anyway, and so they have these philosophical discussions, and so it's also really funny, and so that's sort of the premise, and it's directed by George Stevens, and it's just. I just really love it. And like I said, you never hear anyone talking about it. And when they talk about the great Cary Grant performances, great, movies from that era. And so that's when I should have put that in the hat. If I'd known.
You want to change it? You can change it.
Okay. But
you have a few hours if you want to change it.
All right. But anyway, so that's
one other. I actually wanted to mention one other that I saw that I loved. Grand Illusion.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Now I'm not a fan, as I've said, I'm not a fan of foreign language movies. And over the years, there have been, I think, 9 foreign language movies nominated for Best Picture. And this was actually the very first one from 1937. And it's about basically a group of POWs from World War I and about a prison, escaping from a POW camp and stuff like that. I truly believe that had the movie been in English, it would have won that year because 1937 was a relatively weak year. That was the year that The Life of Emile Zola won Best Picture, which again, I love that. I really enjoyed that movie. But I think Grand Illusion is even better. I mean, of the foreign language films, there were actually 4 that I had never seen before. There's this, Z from 1969, which also I enjoyed. And then there were 2 that I just couldn't. There was The Immigrants, okay, which was this 3.5-hour Swedish film that I found so incredibly boring, and I can't understand. It was about these the whole bunch of Swedes that decide they want to move to America in the 1800s. It was just long and boring. And, that's one of the ones that I'm baffled that it actually was nominated for Best Picture. And the other one was also a Swedish film from 1973 called Cries and Whispers, which I'm not a fan of films that are all metaphor and stuff like that. It's about this woman dying of cancer, and these people that are treating her and stuff like that. And the whole thing with this was with all the colors, the reds and the whites, and I don't understand all that stuff. I want to watch a movie to see a good story. Right. Not to have to think about what the colors mean and what they're trying to imply and stuff like that. But that's just me.
I get it.
Enough people like it. I mean, I know that Ebert thinks that. I think Cries and Whispers, I think, is on his list of greatest movies ever. Well, that's me.
I tell you one that I personally think I personally don't like as much as other people, certainly. I'm not a big fan of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And a lot of people love this movie. And it is very pretty, I admit it. But to me, the flying, it just stops. And I understand that's the style. But to me, it just stops any momentum and becomes Peter Pan. And I want the great thing about martial arts is that the fighting could potentially kill a person. There's just this sense of your body is a weapon, and when they can fly away at a moment's notice, to me it takes out all the tension, it takes out all, and it just becomes choreographed, and I just lose interest. I don't know. Okay, that's one of the ones.
I can hear that. The truth is, I actually love Crouching Tiger, and I actually love the way that they do the flying and the fighting scenes because of the fact that it's choreographed so gracefully. And that's the idea, because usually with when you're watching some sort of martial arts or someone fighting or stuff like that, it's choreographed, but it's not done gracefully. It's done
I like the grittiness. I like I don't want gracefulness in my kung fu movies or my martial arts movies.
I don't either in general, but here they just did it so well. And it was a love story. It was actually a dual love story. Yeah. And I really enjoyed it. The truth is, I think 2000 was a relatively weak year for Best Pictures anyway. And I would have been very happy had Crouching Tiger won that year. I mean, that was a year where you had 3 movies where they all tied basically. I think they all had 4 wins. When you got to the final one, you had Gladiator, you had Crouching Tiger, and you had Traffic. Where they're all very good movies, but you can't say that any of them are spectacular, films. I mean, in that year they also had Chocolat and Aaron Brockovich, which I think both of those are a lot of pretty much overrated.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, that's one of those ones I know I'm in the minority on, and that's fine. 2 others that actually one that I do not care for at all. I don't like Birdman. I appreciate the cinematography. I think it looks cool, and I think Keaton is good, but I just found it really misogynistic. I hated how every single female in that movie is shrill and awful and judgmental, and especially when it came down to the critic, and that she would write a review and tell the star before it even started. That just seemed so ridiculous to me, and I thought the ending was a total cop-out. I hated it, and I was baffled because I love Boyhood. I know you're not a fan, but I loved it. I thought it was just an amazing experience at the movies. And but I would have picked, honestly, almost any of the other nominees that year. Certainly Whiplash, I think, is better than Birdman. I think.
I know that year I would have given it to Selma. I thought Selma was amazing. I was very shocked that
Yeah.
they only got 2 nominations, and
Me too.
I'm glad it won Best Song because that's one of the most emotional songs I've heard.
Yeah, me too. I
But
know. I didn't like it, and I also don't like American Beauty. I think American Beauty is pretentious as just nothing else. You've got like your floating bag of consumerism and suburban culture, and I guess I like movies about. I tend to like movies about good people more than movies about bad people. And that's why, I mean, as much as I respect and I totally think that the Godfather movies are masterpieces. They're really well made. They're just not my favorite. Like if I was going to say like, just because I just don't like any of the people very much, and so I tend to like movies, even if I respect, I just tend to like ones that I feel a bond with. I feel like I like the characters. So I don't know, that obviously that's super subjective, but I don't know, I just hated all the characters in American Beauty. I just found it so pretentious. And I just feel like that whole
But I think that's part of the point. I think you're not supposed to like them.
I know, but I need something, I feel like, to kind of bond with them or have some moment where I sort of feel for them a little bit. I just didn't. And I just feel like that whole like suburbia thing has been done so many times so much better. Like even The Graduate I think is much better. It kind of takes on those kind of themes. I think something like Safe by Todd Haynes, I think that does it better. There's just a lot of examples. I just didn't like it. I thought it was, like I said, really pretentious and really annoying. And so that those are 2 that I really don't care for.
Okay, but that's why we do this, because everyone has their opinions about what they think is great and what they think is not.
Yeah. Like, I get why other people like them. It's just, my opinion. I think if I was going to say one, and I know we disagree on this as well, but one that I just think was a travesty that it wasn't nominated, in my opinion, was Hoop Dreams. I just thought that was just one of those seminal movies of my life. When I saw it, I thought it was so moving to just like experience the life of these characters, these men, these boys, and just these small moments of their life, and particularly their mothers and their families. And when the one mother graduates from nursing school.
I'm sorry to interrupt
you're fine.
You're upset that it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Or you're upset that it wasn't nominated for Best Documentary. Because it wasn't even Best Documentary. Because you have to, I mean, but if you look back on the history of the Oscars for the last 89 years, there's never been a film that was a documentary that was nominated.
Yeah.
That's just something that they put into a totally different category.
Yeah, that's true. It's the same thing
with the animated movies have been able to break out into the Best Picture. I mean, they've done it 3 times if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which should have been more, because I really think Inside Out should have made it last year.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because I mean, obviously, Up, Toy Story 3, and Beauty and the Beast all deserve to be there. Also, there's no question about that. But documentary, I would find it very. I don't think a documentary is ever going to be able to break into the Best Picture category.
Which is part of the problem, I think, with. I'm glad they have a Best Animated. I'm glad they have a Best Documentary category, but I do think it sort of makes them feel like, well, we're already giving them something, so we don't need to nominate for Best Picture. But in my mind, I just think it was a complete travesty. It wasn't nominated for Best Documentary, but I think it just should have been nominated for Best Picture. I just love it. So
okay, no, I understand that. Yeah. I understand. I hear what you're saying, but again, I mean, as we know, everyone looks at the documentaries and the live action shorts and stuff like that. There's those 4 categories that everyone just puts on the side. And they say, I mean, I've even seen people who do Oscar pools, and they don't include those even. Yeah. They're like, no one really cares about these anyway, and stuff like that. And some of the documentaries. I mean, I used to not be a fan of documentaries, and ever since I started my site a few years ago, I've seen a lot more documentaries, and some of them are just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw OJ Made in America, which most people don't have the patience to sit and watch an 8-hour movie.
Amazing.
It was unbelievable. Right. I mean, if I had doubts beforehand as to whether he was innocent or guilty. After watching that, I had no doubts anymore. But again, I'm not on the jury, so it doesn't matter. but
that
that
was
movie says so much more
yeah.
about the whole atmosphere at the time. Also.
Well, in that movie, they actually get one of the jurors to admit that that the reason it was payback. It wasn't that's why, and she admits it for all these years. I was like, yeah, that I totally agree. Anyway, I just love that. I love that film. So that's one that I feel like, and there are a lot of animated films that I feel like should have been at least, I think, considered. Maybe they were, but I don't know. Since animation is my favorite. I think another film that I just loved that I would have liked recently to have seen in the Best Picture discussion was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That was a movie that moved me so much. I thought it was so well done. I thought it had a message to it, a heart to it that was really beautiful. I thought the acting was great. The special effects were great. I don't know. So that would be one that I think could have been in the discussion as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's the type of movie. It was good, but I don't think it's the movie that would be able to break into the Best Picture. I mean, come on, if something like The Dark Knight wasn't able to make it, and that was one of the best superhero movies ever.
Yeah. No, I know. I agree with you. I agree with you.
I mean, we can dream, but we need to be realistic.
No, yeah, I know. I guess I say these things more as like what I would pick more than like realistically. I get that. Okay, well, so let's talk. We're going to spend the rest of the podcast sharing our top 5. These are not just 5 of our favorites of the Best Picture winners, and you obviously have seen more of them than I have. But I still certainly have 5, and these aren't in numerical order because we just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I can't do that.
And so I'll share one, and then you share one, and then we can kind of talk about it, and that should be fun.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Cool. So my first one that I wanted to talk about is Slumdog Millionaire, and this I feel like doesn't get enough credit because of the whole Dark Knight thing. Because people are like, oh, well, it shouldn't have won. Dark Knight should have won, whatever. And I love this movie so much. I just bonded with it. The whole, I love movies about good people. And this movie I just loved these lead characters so much. I felt such a bond to them. And I felt like it was so moving to see how the love that they had for each other kind of kept them in a way sort of innocent and pure. I guess that's probably pure is a better word than innocent, that it kind of sheltered them from all of this chaos, and it gave them something to hope for and something to kind of live for. And I thought that was so beautiful. And it's just, there were so many gut-wrenching moments. It was so beautifully filmed. It was the colors and the movement and I really liked the sort of the framework of the show to kind of narrate you through the story. I thought that worked really well. I thought the acting was really good. I loved the music. It was great. So I loved Slumdog Millionaire. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the first R-rated movies that I actually ever saw, if you can believe it. Because I for a long time, I had a no R-rated movie policy. And I went and saw Slumdog Millionaire for, I don't even remember why, but I did. And I just loved it. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm not going to have that rule anymore.
Because you've been actually shown that it's possible for something that be R-rated and still be good and clean, relatively. Innocent.
Because it's mature, but it's not offensive.
Correct. Right. And I can hear that.
Yeah. So anyway, right. What do you think of Slumdog? Not a fan?
Slumdog is I found it to be an interestingly written film, and they do it very cleverly. But I just didn't feel for the characters enough, and it seems too going back to what we were saying before. It seems too choreographed. Mm-hmm. The whole story, the way the whole thing works. I mean, obviously, when someone's writing a story, they're going to write it in a certain way, stuff like that. But I just didn't find it as sympathetic as apparently most of the Oscar voters did, because if I remember correctly, it won eight Oscars.
Yeah.
So, but then again, there are movies that I don't know if have you ever seen Gigi or Gigi or however it's pronounced?
Yeah,
From
not a big
1958.
fan of that one.
I hated that movie, and I can't understand how I got nine
No.
Oscars.
No,
So,
it's really, it's kind of creepy in a weird way if you think about it. Thank heaven for little girls and everything. It's a little weird.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very weird movie. I watched it and I was so bored when I saw it a few years ago, and I couldn't understand how it won 9 Oscars. But whatever. So yeah, Slumdog's not on it's not high on my list. If I were to ever rank the 89 films, it would probably be somewhere in the middle.
Fair enough.
It wouldn't rise to close to the top.
Fair enough. I really bonded with it, but that's cool.
Right. Again, that's the way it always is. All right.
What about one of yours?
All right. How about The Best Years of Our Lives? It's a movie from 1946 when it came out about a year after World War II ended, and it's about three soldiers returning home and how they integrate their lives, reintegrate back into their old lives again, because basically they were away fighting the war and life continued. And you have one guy who's married with 2 teenage kids. You have another one who actually who was engaged to be married, and he lost both of his arms. And that's actually played by Harold Russell, who was a real veteran that lost his arms. So he's actually the only person to ever win 2 Oscars for the same role in the same movie, because they gave him a special Oscar also for being able to show veterans and things like that. And then the third one is a guy who got married right before he went off to war and comes back. And so you see how all 3 of them have they've been dealing with, and they're also in different branches of the army, different branches of the service. The older guy is the married guy with 2 kids. He's in the army, and the one who got married right before he went off to war was in the air. He was a pilot in the Air Force, or a bombardier actually, and then the third one was in the Navy. The guy who lost his arms. So you get a very clear view as to what all 3 of these guys went through during the war, and now they've come home thinking that everything's going to get back to normal, and everything has changed for them. And I still find it amazing that this is a movie that came out over 70 years ago, and it's still so relevant today. Seeing how people treated, how we all know how people treated veterans during Vietnam, and how the veterans are being treated now. Over the last 15 plus years of the war in the Middle East, where life continues on the home front, but these people come back and they have to try and reintegrate themselves into their own lives, and it's just it's amazing how poignant the whole thing still is after all these years.
Yeah,
have you ever seen it?
I have not seen it, but you're the third person, literally, since in this Oscar season, to recommend that I see it and say it was in their top 5. So I've got to see it.
Yeah, I mean it's a 3-hour movie, but it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah,
it really flies through.
Yeah, it's interesting how I think they just had more patience back then. Every once in a while you'll get a Boyhood, or a movie that's almost 3 hours or something like that.
The Revenant was also
The
very
Revenant,
long.
yeah. You'll get one of those now, but pretty rarely. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think like a movie such as My Fair Lady was basically 3 hours long. That would never happen now. And
no. Well, this could people have less patience for a musical that long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would just never happen. And they had a Silver Screens Classics series at our local theater last fall, and they had 6 of the movies were almost 3 hours long. There was Ben-Hur, Lawrence of Arabia, Sound of Music, Giant, the Dr. Zhivago, and one other one I can't think of. But
and you saw all of them?
Yeah, every
Oh
week.
wow, I'm very jealous.
It was awesome. And yeah, then there were 10 films, and then there was The Searchers, and it was only $10 for the whole package, which was crazy. Singing in the
Whoa.
Rain, North by Northwest, Driving Miss Daisy, which was a weird one to throw in there. It was like not quite up with all these other levels. Like it's solid, whatever. But
I mean, because of Oscar's so white.
yeah, I guess it's not quite up with Ben-Hur though. I mean, I don't think. But anyway.
That Driving Miss Daisy is a fun movie, but it's also you question how it won that year. Actually.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, but it was pretty amazing experience, and but yeah, it was sort of exhausting though, like 6 weeks in a row going to a 3-hour movie. I'm like, okay.
I would love that.
It was good. It was good. It was very good. So
all right, so now you have what to put on your list of what you have to see.
Yes,
and
I will.
It's clean. It's clean.
Awesome. I will see it, and I will let you know what I think. I'm sure I'll love it.
Can't wait to hear.
Yeah. So
and don't be shy to say you didn't like it. That's okay. All right also.
I'm never shy. So okay. A next one on my list that I actually just saw on the big screen this last week is All About Eve.
Oh wow. Okay.
I love this movie. I think it is just probably my favorite script ever written. I know that's hyperbole.
Clever.
I love the script. It's so good. And just, I actually did a monologue from it when I was in drama in high school. Like I plucked out a monologue from it. There's just such great performances. It's so well written. It's so entertaining, such great characters. And so, yeah, I guess surprisingly, I don't have a ton to say on it, but the cinematography looks really good. It's just that script. The script is great.
Well, it's one of the first times that the Academy showed how much they like movies about actors and, and their trade.
Sure.
Because you see it quite often. I mean, that's why everyone was saying La La Land was going to win this year, and Birdman, the artist. The voters love seeing movies about themselves.
Sure.
That's also why they say Argo won, for that same reason. But so that was actually one of the first ones where they did it, where they just took everything and said, okay, let's just make it, for the theater instead of films.
Yeah.
But it was very clear that you can see that they're talking about the way movie stars work. And with All About Eve, it's actually very interesting to see that even now it still works the same way. I mean, it's funny and sad. It
is very funny. I mean, we were laughing throughout. Like someone like George Sanders is so witty and funny in it. I think that Bette Davis has some really great, funny sort of put downs and lines, and yet you feel for her. You really do feel for her, and she should be a character that you don't really like all that much, but I don't know. You feel for her, and you feel you want her to be happy, and it surprises you. You don't exactly kind of know what Eve's plan is. You kind of suspect it, but it's very absorbing, and so.
Well, I'm jealous you got to see it in the theater.
Yeah, they do every month here. The Cinemark does a Cinemark Classics. And so this month is the Quiet Man. So that'll be fun.
I just saw that last week again.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I know feminists don't like it, but I like it. So what's your next one?
Okay, my next one is Bridge on the River Kwai. I'm basically going in year order, I guess you could say. Bridge on the River Kwai.
Yeah.
Which is basically a movie about Allied POWs in a Japanese camp during World War II, and basically the different type of personalities that are in this type of prison camp. And you have this American who's there, and then right at the beginning of the movie you have this entire regiment of British soldiers that have basically they gave up. I'm trying to think of the word right now. They
surrendered.
Surrendered. There's the word. That's the word I'm looking for. They surrendered, and then you see the psychological fight between the commander of the British troops, played by Alec Guinness, who won an Oscar for this, and the commandant of the camp. I don't know if commandant is the right word for a Japanese camp, but I don't remember what that's called. And that's played by what's his name? I'm probably not even going to pronounce it well. Anyway, by Sasui Hayakawa as Colonel Saito, and it's very interesting seeing these two men, who are they have to live their lives together. They have to live out the war together, and they both want to stand on ceremony to show their men, that they're still in control. And it's basically a battle of wits between the two of them, because the Japanese want the British officers to work on doing manual labor, and the British refuse to do it because of the Geneva Convention. And I mean, I don't want to give away too much about the movie. And then you have this American who's seeing everything from the side, and it's unbelievable where this movie, where the story takes all of these characters.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to give away too much.
This is a great
that people
movie.
Haven't seen, you should see it. It's, and obviously, it's got one of the best known
scores,
soundtracks. But no, it's the idea of having Colonel Bogey's March,
right?
Where
right,
everyone knows that you can whistle while you work,
right?
I guess you can say.
Yeah, that movie is so layered in the ways that you can enjoy it, the ways that you can, in the character development and when certain things happen, it's just completely devastating, and because you have gotten kind of all worked up along with the characters. I don't want to give it away, but it's a great movie. Very good choice. So all right. So my next choice is Lawrence of Arabia. And I actually saw this as part of that series for the first time. And I went into it thinking, oh, this thing's going to be boring. I'm not going to like it. And I was just blown away by it. I thought it was so rich and deep and interesting, and I loved all of the characters. I think that Lawrence is such an interesting character, and I could have watched it for longer. Like, it could have been a miniseries or something. Like, I was just so interested in the story of his character and how he went. He was somebody that was like an enigma. He was hard to figure out. Like, he was somebody who wasn't just sort of this paragon of virtue. Like, he was kind of, I mean, I say I like movies about good people, but he was somebody that I liked, but then sometimes didn't like. So it was a little more complex, I guess. Right. And I think Omar Sharif is so great in that, playing his role. And I think it just kept surprising me and going darker places than I expected, and then being funny at times, and then and just the cinematography is incredible. It still holds up, I think. It looks just amazing. And I don't know. I was really surprised at just how complex the characters were, because I was expecting it to be kind of a Moses sort of like story, in the sense of it being just this like epic with this like archetypal hero kind of a story, but it's really not. It's really not like that. It's a lot more nuanced than that, I think. So
right, I definitely agree. I think Lawrence is a great movie, and it's funny that we just talked about two David Lean films back to back, because there's a Lean won Best Director, and obviously his movie won Best Picture, both for Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia. And what's interesting is, I mean, I've seen a number of Lean stuff, and he reuses the same actors over and over, and it's very funny, because like Alec Guinness is also in Lawrence of Arabia playing the Sheik, I think it is called. Lawrence of Arabia is great. I mean, that is something that I would love to see one day on the big screen also, because of the grandeur of the whole thing. because of the way that it's filmed.
And it's not really a white savior thing. Like, if anything, they end up saving him like many times, and they end up kind of
back and forth, right?
Yeah, it's back and forth. That's right. But he is he's got an ego. He's sort of a diva at times, but then like things happen that are really devastating, and so I don't know. Just a lot of I feel like the various characters are from the Arab characters are very. Some of them are in brown face, which isn't great, but I do think though that they are also pretty nuanced and well. I think maybe because it's just so long, they have time and so yeah. I think it's just I was just so impressed. The music's amazing, and it so many ways to enjoy it. So, so what would be a next one for you on your list?
Okay. The next one, Schindler's List.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. We had an unstable connection for a second, but hopefully that's over. So okay. Schindler's List.
Yeah. So Schindler's List. And the truth is I think that would, if I ever were to have to rank all of the best pictures, Schindler's List would be in the top 3, if not the top film, because it's just amazing. I mean, Steven Spielberg was able to make such an emotional film, and he just did it in a way that no one expected him to be able to do it. I mean, I remember when it came out, and like I was debating going to see it and stuff, and I kept saying, "Oh, I'm just not in the mood to see an emotionally draining 3.5 hour Holocaust movie." And then I realized that once you go there, it's going to get you into that mood and you're so engrossed throughout the entire movie. I mean, I've seen it probably between 5 and 10 times. I can't even remember how many times. And it really pulls you in, and you feel as if you're there, which a lot of movies don't have the ability to do. A lot of movies you get the fly on the wall type of feeling, but here you're more than just a fly on the wall. You're a fly on someone's head watching the whole thing. I mean, it's obviously a heartbreaking tale, but it's still done so well. And I'd be surprised if anyone is ever able to make something as well as he did this.
Yeah, I agree. I think just the scene with the girl with the red coat that scene alone is just it's just stunning. You just think, how could this happen? It's just brutal. And I think I said that I like movies about good people, but I think when you're dealing with something like the Holocaust, I think that what is interesting about Schindler's List is that Schindler is a bad man. Like, he's not a good person. And yet because things are so screwed up and so messed up, he kind of becomes a good man.
Right. But he starts off doing it out of greed. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. That it just shows how messed up it was that someone like him could kind of end up being, in a way, sort of a hero. But the Ben Kingsley character is the real hero. He's so good in that film.
He was great in that film.
Mm-hmm.
He actually also should have won Best Supporting Actor that year. But
I wonder who won. Do you know off the top of your head?
Of course I do. What type of question is that? That was Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, I do love that performance too. But yeah, it's a remarkably quiet performance for that kind of a film. I think that actually Schindler's List in a lot of ways is kind of a quiet film. It's not a movie that, like a scene like the girl with the red coat, it's not really trying to emotionally manipulate you that much. Like, all films manipulate you a little bit, but some Holocaust films, some war films are very I don't know. They almost don't give you a chance to
I need
breathe.
to actually make a correction. One second, let me just make one correction.
Yeah.
He wasn't even nominated that year.
Ah, yeah.
The only Best Supporting Actor nominee that year was for Ralph Fiennes.
Wow.
For Schindler's List. But again, I mean, Tommy Lee Jones did win that year.
Wow. Huh.
But
that's crazy.
Yeah. So now I understand why Tommy Lee Jones won, because he wasn't up against Ben Kingsley.
Right. Yeah. But I don't know. I do appreciate that it's quiet. And
but that's the whole idea of it. It's something that is it's not in your face.
Yeah.
It slowly builds and gets you into the right mood and mind frame of what's going on and what's happening, and the absurdity of it all and the horror of it all, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something you'll never forget. It's not one that I can watch very often because it's just such a taxing experience. But I just never forget that girl with the red coat. Like, that's just one of those most iconic moments ever in movies, I think.
Well, because he broke his own rule by having everything in black and white,
right?
And then just that's the one thing that's not black and white. And I mean, I'm sure you noticed, but a little later on, you see the red coat again.
Yep. That's what makes it so powerful.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm actually I'm switching up my list a little bit from what I had sent you, but it's not one you have unless you changed up your list. My next one I'm going to talk about is Amadeus. And I don't know why I didn't think of it at first. I love Ben-Hur. It's so amazing. We already talked about one epic. I'm going to talk about Amadeus because I just love Amadeus. I think Amadeus is such a great character study about envy and how if you're envious, the other person can be completely oblivious to the fact that they're living in your head 24/7, but right. you allow them to have a spot in your head, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows until it becomes this mania. And that's what happens with Salieri, that he can't. He even admits to the priest, that he can't kind of forgive. Like even basically killing Mozart, in his eyes at least, it's still not enough for him to get over his anger at God and his anger at the way at Mozart for being so talented. And I think the way that the movie shows the experience of listening to music as a music lover, that's something the way that they kind of close their eyes and you can see them kind of picturing the music in their heads is so like perfect. And that's the way that a music lover really experiences music. And of course, all of the operas are all just so well done, beautifully done. I think that all the performances are so good. F. Murray Abraham gave, the performance of his career, but he's so, he's such an interesting character, and he just allows, because he is talented, and it's such a character that's so easy to relate to, because how many of us want to be great at something, but in the end we just don't have it. We're good, we're solid, but it's kind of the opposite of something like La La Land, where it's like, go for your dreams or whatever, and whereas like with Amadeus, like he could try as hard as he could, but he was never going to be as good as Mozart. That's it. And so I find that just fascinating and wonderful, and it's so well filmed, it's so beautiful, like the way they use Prague to create that feel, that old world feel. And so yeah, this one I'm changing it up.
Okay, well, I mean, I do enjoy Amadeus. It's not, I'm not as much of a music lover as you are, so that makes things a little more difficult for me to absolutely love it so much that I want to keep watching it. I've actually only seen it probably 2 or 3 times, but I mean, you already pointed out some of the best things about the film. The whole idea, the character study, basically, that no matter how great you can be, sometimes everyone has their limitations, and you're just gonna, sometimes be jealous of someone else who has a natural ability that you can't even come close to matching.
And there probably were people that were envious of Salieri, that he spent all of his time worrying about.
Yeah, but no one tried killing him.
Right. Right. And so I don't know. I think it's such a well-made, well-executed,
Yeah. I mean,
engaging
also,
film.
I think that, I mean, that year in 1984 was a
1984.
relatively, yeah, 1984 was a relatively weak Best Picture year anyway.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, Amadeus is way ahead of the rest.
Mm.
But there was nothing else that could even come close. I mean, you had A Soldier Story, Places in the Heart, Passage to India, and The Killing Fields. I think The Killing Fields is the one that comes the closest.
Yeah.
But it's still very far away from where Amadeus was able to get. Because, I mean, for many years, the Oscar voters looked at epics. They loved epics.
Sure.
The fact that if someone goes and catalogs everyone that's won, there's so many years where there are epics that have won that have ended up winning Best Picture. Up until the mid '90s, when I think The English Patient was the last real epic that won something. I mean, unless you want to talk about, I mean, now I'm going to talk about my next one, which is Titanic, which is sort of an epic, but it's not your classical epic. It's not an epic in the classical sense that many of the other epics who won. So Titanic is one of my favorite films. Obviously, I wasn't a teenage girl when it came out. I'm still not.
I was.
And I mean, I saw it in the theater, and I was amazed at the way this movie was given to us. I mean, yes, it's over 3 hours, but you don't feel it. And I think one of the best things they did about it, I mean, just for those who are living on another world that don't know what Titanic is, it's basically a love story set on the backdrop of the first and only and last trip of the ocean liner Titanic that was going from England to New York, and met this iceberg along the way and didn't make it all the way. But James Cameron, there's a lot to say about his personality, not necessarily always good things, but he was able to make an amazing movie here. Everything is done right. I mean, the thing that I always loved about it is right at the beginning, within 15 minutes, they basically tell you everything that's going to happen, because they show you a mock-up of what happened on the ship. And once you see that, you store it in your mind and you forget about it. And as the movie is going along, you see all these things happen and you start to remember, wow, they said that was going to happen. They said that was going to happen. And it all just plays out so well as it's going along the way. And the music is amazing. The production design, I mean, everything, the way that the ship looks and the people and every way everyone's dressed and they talk. And I mean, for me, I love the fact that they talk about the differences of society, where you have the upper class and the lower class, and so you have, and they point that out so many times throughout the movie, even at the point where where they're deciding who to rescue. Where one of the characters, Kate Winslet's mother in the movie, she says, "Will there be separate seating for first and third class passengers?" And you see the way people put themselves into certain classes, and put on blinders and don't see anything else about what's going on. And also, to me, the most amazing thing about the movie is, and I've seen this movie probably close to 20 times, if not more. And again, that's a 3-hour movie. I actually just saw it again the day after the Oscars this year, the morning after, and it's the love story. I just in all the movies that I've seen in my lifetime, this is one of the ones that at least I can clearly see how much love there is between these two characters, where they're together for such a short amount of time, but I find it believable. A lot of movies, you have the meet cute and stuff like that, and then you see, oh, they're automatically in love. But this movie takes its time to develop the characters and develop their love story, and it's not just a disaster movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't even classify it. I remember when people were talking about how much of a quote unquote disaster the movie was going to be, because it was running over budget and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone said that it was going to be a real disaster movie, not just a movie about a disaster. And I mean, now it's been 20 years, and it was just amazing.
If you want to see how this is done wrong and get a whole new respect for Titanic, watch Pearl Harbor, and that'll give you a whole new respect for Titanic. I like Titanic. It would be probably the middle of my list, kind of similar to you and Slumdog, I guess. But I kind of wish, the only thing I critique against it is I kind of wish you got to know some of the other characters a little bit better because I feel like when the tragedy happens, there's one moment where characters are reading children a book, I think, that made me cry. But I felt like I wish there had been more moments like that where I'd gotten to know sort of the whole ship, as opposed to feeling like I kind of just felt sad about Jack and Rose. And so that would be my only sort of critique of it, because it is a real thing and these were real people. So I kind of wish that they all got maybe they're fleshed out a little bit better. But it's all the things you said are very true. It's a beautiful movie. The James Horner score, I love.
Yeah,
a lot of people
amazing.
Got sick of that Celine Dion song. I don't care. I think it's a beautiful song.
I love that song.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite Oscar-winning songs. It's one of my favorite songs. I mean, I can listen to the soundtrack without a problem. Listening to the music. It's just done so well. One thing I want to point out, what you said about about fleshing out the other characters, but they didn't flesh out the other characters because they wanted to stay focused on Jack and Rose, but they give us so many short pictures of the other characters that tell us a lot about the characters themselves also. They didn't develop them, but you get a clear sense of a lot of the characters, of who they are and what they are and what they mean. I mean, and part of it was also the myths of Titanic, the idea of that the band played until the very last moment, and the captain deciding to go down with the ship, all those type of things. It's done subtly, but it
makes sense in a way. Because she's telling the story. So it makes sense that, of course, it would be focused on her and Jack because it's her story.
She's telling the story, but she also mentions all these other people that she sees along the way, which is a cute way of introducing us to all those other type of characters also.
I just could have seen a little bit more of them, but I understand what you're saying. And it's certainly a good film. And
I'd love to see the 4 or 5 hour version of it.
Yeah. Me too. And you got to give Cameron credit for bold filmmaking. He always goes for it 100%, and which I really appreciate. So all right, cool. So next on my list,
is this your final one?
Yes, I guess it is.
Yes, it is.
So my last one is, I admit, a little bit of nostalgia with this one, but I still love it, is The Sound of Music. And Sound of Music was a movie I watched a lot as a kid. In fact, when it was a pick for this series last fall, I was so surprised that it was 3 hours. Almost 3 hours long. It had never occurred to me that it was that long. I mean, and I think that says something. If you enjoy a movie,
right,
and you don't even realize that it's 3 hours long, like, that says something. And I think this is probably the best example of I'm a huge Broadway buff, huge show tunes buff. This is probably the best stage to screen adaptation ever. They actually make it much better. The movie is significantly better than the stage version. The stage version was written for Mary Martin, who had a very limited range. So then when they got Julie Andrews, they were able to add some really good songs, like I Have Confidence was added. They added the Something Good, which was different in the original version, and which I really love that scene. And they took out two songs that I think make Max and the Baroness much more deceitful and much more conniving. And so I think they made their characters more subtle and more interesting. And I love the songs. I just think, and each of the way these songs are staged in Salzburg and Austria, and it's so great. I love I think the child performances are wonderful. And I love Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews have amazing chemistry together. And it's romantic. It has moments of tension. It has moments of laughter, like the lonely goat herder, seeing things like that are kind of funny. Yeah, I just love it. I could watch it almost any day. But it's Sound of Music.
Okay.
And I love it.
I too have. I saw it so many times as a kid, and a lot of the songs I know by heart. Such a great movie.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I mean, now having seen Ship of Fools, I'm a little disappointed that Ship of Fools didn't win over it, but The Sound of Music is definitely one of the best musicals. I must say that most of the musicals that have won Best Picture are not among my favorite, but Sound of Music is my favorite of the lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it better than My Fair Lady, definitely more than Chicago.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Chicago at all. As we mentioned earlier, Gigi, I'm not a fan of either.
No.
I'm not a fan of Oliver either.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't hate it, but like I'd
say
the three best that I can think of off the top of my head are West Side Story.
West Side Story, I forgot about. Right,
Sound of Music.
I'm a big fan of West Side.
Yeah, and My Fair Lady. I think those are the three best. But
okay.
I think
I would say West Side Story and Sound of Music are both my top two. West Side Story, I always have a problem with the fact that you have these supposed gang members that are singing and dancing the whole time.
Yeah, and they do. I wish that they had actually, I mean, you see this all over in that era, but I do wish they had cast actual Latinos and Puerto Ricans, whatever, in the roles. But, oh well, what are you going to do?
Right. Well, Rita Moreno was.
Yeah, Rita Moreno was, but some of the others had brown face, which not my favorite. Yeah. But it was just the era that it was.
Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah. So.
Okay, my final. I have a little bit of a problem because I have two that I think are amazing and they're so very different. So you tell me which one you'd rather I talk about. There's The Apartment and Platoon.
I haven't seen Platoon, so let's talk about Apartment because I consider that for my list also. I love it. Okay. Let's talk about that.
All right. So The Apartment, it's a movie from 1960 with Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine, and it's basically a movie about this low-level accountant who has an apartment that all of his bosses like to borrow from him in order to have their romances with their girlfriends, instead of their wives. And first of all, I mean, Billy Wilder did an amazing job with this movie, both writing it and directing it, because it's just it's done so cleverly. Yeah. I mean, here you have a story about basically affairs and infidelity, and they only subtly reference them. Yeah. They don't blatantly talk about it, and they joke about it every so often here and there and stuff like that. But it's not, if this movie was made today, they would ruin it. So different. It would be completely ruined because it would be all very blatant. And the fact that most of it is subtly done and things are thrown in here and there, and obviously, a side point. I mean, I've now watched a lot of older movies that I've never seen before. From the 1930s and 40s, and some from the 50s, stuff like that. And it's amazing to see the themes that are discussed a lot in these movies that are done subtly. Partially because of the Hays Code and stuff like that, but it
makes him so much more. To me, it makes him so much sexier, so much more interesting, so much more provocative. Like I think Breakfast at Tiffany's is another really good example of that.
Right. Okay.
You know, that there's a lot of, you know, she's a call girl, there's a lot of sexual stuff, but it's all sort of implied, and, you know, she's a phony, but she's a real phony. And so I think that makes it so much better than
so true. That actually wasn't where I was going, but that's very true. Yeah. Where I was going was it shows that people are still the same they were 70, 80 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, things haven't changed with the things people think about and that people do and stuff like that. But the difference is the way that it's presented.
Right.
And the presentation, the way that things are done subtly as opposed to blatantly, sometimes shows more intelligence.
Right.
You know, movies like The Apartment are showing an intelligent view of these type of things, as opposed to just trying to get the ratings or to get people in the seats to watch the movie because they know there's going to be, you know, R-rated stuff in it. I mean, here it's just discussing the thing, and it's a guy who just wants to find his place in the world and find his love and stuff like that, and he does things in order to make people like him until he realizes that, wait a second, I don't need to do this anymore for them to like me. They should like me for who I am. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Shirley MacLaine's character has the same issue, that she wants to be liked by her bosses. And that's why she has these affairs with her bosses. And then she finally meets a guy that's normal and starts saying, wait a second, do I need to continue having, you know, these affairs, or maybe I actually can have, you know, a great relationship with someone. And I mean, I'm giving this one away, but you know, the last line in the movie, you know, shut up and deal. It's just great.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie, I love movies about work. And maybe because I'm not married, like I feel like, you know, work is such a huge part of my life. And I have totally had the job where I was in the cubicle putting in, you know, data, bored out of my mind. And so I think I don't know if I discovered this movie then or if I just grew to love it then, but I so relate to, isn't his name Stanley, or anyway, in the movie?
His name is CC Baxter. Oh, you're talking about... No,
this is that I so related to the Jack Lemmon character. I forget his name, but
CC Baxter.
Yeah, CC Baxter. That, you know, just feeling like, oh, you're one in this, like that great opening shot where you just see like all the desks just laid out, and you just, the idea of getting that corner office would have just been like heaven. And I think that it's such an interesting thing about, because we talk about the idea of ambition as being just sort of this like I hear some of my single friends like, I want to marry a guy who's very ambitious. I'm like, really? You sure about that? And because
tell them to watch The Apartment.
yeah, exactly. And because certainly ambition can be a wonderful thing, but where do you draw the line? And he starts with one compromise, and then he makes another compromise, and then he makes another compromise, and it just kind of keeps spiraling, but he keeps getting rewarded for the compromises, and so they become in a way easier to make at a certain point. And that's easy for any of us to do in a work environment or other environments, you know, to say, well, I'm gonna fudge on my time card, or I'm gonna, you know, you just make these little, I'm gonna take an extra long lunch, or just these little compromises. To justify it. These compromises of your ethics, like, oh, the boss was in here, or, oh, I was working extra hard for those, you know, so I don't need to count that extra hour I took off, or whatever it might be that you're sort of, you're compromising, and you compromise, and then another and another until you become this person that you hate. And I think that's the moment that both of them have by the end of it. They're like, they just sort of realize that I've become this person that I hate. And so, yeah, it's an amazing movie. I love it.
Right. And I love the casting of Fred McMurray as the boss. Because, I mean, I grew up watching him on My Three Sons. You know, This was before I saw Double Indemnity and things like that. And I always saw him as this innocent, clear-cut guy. And to see him in this type of role where he's two-timing his wife and, you know, just wants to get that key to the apartment. You think that you know, he'd have enough cash lying around, he could just go to a hotel. But
yeah.
Yeah.
But so those leave like a trail and stuff. So there's reasons why.
No, of
because
course.
they leave a paper trail. But yeah, that's a great pick. Another one that I love that I could have picked is My Left Foot. That's another one that I think could have been really maudlin and really patronizing.
But it didn't win.
It didn't win?
No.
I thought it did.
No. Driving Miss Daisy won that year.
Oh, that's a shame. I thought it won.
My Left Foot, no. Daniel Day-Lewis won.
Yeah, he's amazing. And Brenda Fricker.
Yeah. But no, that did not win Best Picture.
Okay, misspoke. I'd love that movie too, because I just think it could have been super patronizing and really, but he's like an actual like human being. He's not just a special needs person. Right. Anyway, so that was another one I thought of. And so yeah, but there's lots of amazing movies.
The year that My Left Foot was nominated, I would actually rank it 4th out of 5.
Oh, really?
You have Dead Poet Society that year, Field of Dreams, Born on the 4th of July, Driving Miss Daisy, and My Left Foot.
That was a good year.
Of course, you haven't seen Born on the 4th of July.
No, I haven't seen that, but the rest, those are great. Those are great. Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No problem. And I'm very glad to have been invited. Thank you very much, Rachel.
So where can people find you? On Twitter and your blog and everything?
Okay. Well, my website is movierob.wordpress.com. And my Twitter account is Real MovieRob, because for some reason someone else was actually already MovieRob, even though his account is inactive, but whatever. So
okay,
only tweet me at Real MovieRob. Okay. And my email is also very simple. It's rob@movierob.net.
Sweet.
Anyone wants to get in touch, follow, or if they just want to talk about movies, that's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on all social media, and Rachel's Reviews. My blog is 54 Disney Reviews. And I will be covering the new Beauty and the Beast on Thursday. So that's coming up, and that will be exciting. And then I have coming up for a series I do called His Picks, Her Picks. We're going to be looking at movies that involve space. So it should be pretty fun. So you want to check out that. And so thanks again. And I'll look forward to seeing your 3,000th post.
Maybe it'll be yours. Maybe it'll be your suggestion. Thanks a lot, Rachel.